You've probably heard of the Bermuda Triangle. It's a place where ships disappear, planes crash, and where, according to the internet, aliens abduct people with surprising regularity. The area between Miami, Bermuda, and Puerto Rico has long been synonymous with the inexplicable, and every self-respecting mystery channel has devoted an episode to it at least once. But here's the strange thing. While bloggers and conspiracy theorists have spent decades arguing about portals to other dimensions and Atlantean underwater bases, real scientists have been quietly doing their job. They've been sinking instruments, launching satellites, drilling into the ocean floor, and analyzing the data. And what they've begun to discover in recent years has proven far more interesting than any alien fiction. Because the reality of the Bermuda Triangle isn't just strange, it rewrites our understanding of geology, oceanography, and even the nature of water itself. Today, we'll explore 5 discoveries science has made in this region, and I promise, after this episode, you'll look at the Bermuda Triangle with completely different eyes. Get ready, because the truth about the triangle is more frightening than any legend. Let's begin with the story that created this entire myth. On December 5, 1945, 5 Avenger torpedo bombers took off from Fort Lauderdale Air Force Base in Florida. They were Flight 19, a training sortie, a routine exercise for 14 young pilots. The route was simple: fly east, bomb a practice target, and return. The weather was clear, the aircraft were in good condition, the pilots were experienced. Nothing foreshadowed disaster. But 2 hours after takeoff, the flight commander, Lieutenant Charles Taylor, contacted base and reported that both his compasses had failed. He couldn't determine his location. The radio communications recorded by base became increasingly alarming. Taylor seemed to believe the flight was over the Gulf of Mexico, although in fact the planes had most likely flown far out into the Atlantic. Controllers tried to direct it west toward the coast, but communications were becoming increasingly poor. Flight 19's last message came around 7 o'clock in the evening, after which the 5 planes with 14 people on board vanished forever. No debris, no bodies, no oil slicks, nothing. Worse, the Mariner flying boat sent to search for them was also missing. 27 people vanished into thin air in one evening. This story became the cornerstone of the Bermuda Triangle myth. Writers, journalists, and paranormal enthusiasts amplified it for decades, adding details not found in the original reports. Stories surfaced of Taylor allegedly screaming about white water and strange skies, of compasses spinning wildly, of a green glow hanging over the ocean. None of these details are supported by declassified Navy records, but who cares when the story already sounds like a horror movie script? Riding the triangle's popularity, every shipwreck and plane crash in the area began to be attributed to mysterious forces. By the 1970s, the triangle's toll had swelled to hundreds of ships and dozens of planes, and it seemed as if something truly anomalous was afoot in this stretch of ocean. But is it really? That's where real science begins. The first thing the researchers did was crunch the numbers, not stories and legends, but real statistics. In 2013, the World Wildlife Fund published a large-scale study analyzing shipwreck data from around the world over several decades. The results were disconcerting for mystery lovers. The Bermuda Triangle didn't even make the top 10 most dangerous areas of the world's oceans. In terms of incidents per unit of shipping traffic, it ranked behind the South China Sea, the British coast, the Mediterranean, and several other waters. Simply put, ships sink no more often in the Bermuda Triangle than in any other busy maritime area. Insurance companies, counting every cent, don't raise rates for vessels passing through the triangle, and they certainly would know if the risk were real. The U.S. Coast Guard doesn't officially recognize the Bermuda Triangle as a high-risk area and doesn't keep separate statistics on it. For them, this is a normal stretch of ocean with a normal level of incidence. It would seem that this would be the end of the matter. But scientists are meticulous people, and instead of simply saying, "There's nothing special here," they began digging deeper. And then something unexpected happened. The triangle really was special, just not in the way the conspiracy theorists had thought. The first truly significant discovery concerns the seafloor. The ocean floor in the Bermuda Triangle is not a flat plain covered in sand and seaweed. It is one of the most geologically complex and dramatic landscapes on the planet. It is home to the Puerto Rico Trench, the deepest point in the Atlantic Ocean at 8,380 meters. This is deeper than Mount Everest is tall, measured from sea level. Nearby are seamounts, canyons, volcanic ridges, and vast carbonate rock platforms riddled with caves and sinkholes. But the main discovery awaited scientists not in the trench itself, but on the shallow banks of the Bahamas. In 2015, a team of Norwegian researchers from the Arctic University of Tromsø discovered giant craters up to 800 meters in diameter and up to 45 meters deep in satellite images of the Barents Sea floor. These craters were the remains of massive methane emissions from underwater gas reservoirs. The gas, trapped under pressure in sedimentary rocks, periodically breaks out, producing a release so powerful that it leaves a crater the size of a city block at the site of the explosion. Researchers immediately drew a parallel with the Bermuda Triangle. The seafloor in this area also contains colossal deposits of gas hydrates, crystalline structures in which methane molecules are trapped within ice cells. These hydrates are stable at high pressure and low temperature, but when conditions change, if the water warms slightly or the pressure drops due to seismic activity, they begin to break down. The methane is released, turning into gas, and rises to the surface in giant bubbles. Laboratory experiments have shown that water saturated with gas bubbles dramatically loses density. If a ship passes over a blowout zone, it can literally collapse. The water beneath it loses its support, as if the floor suddenly turned to air. The vessel sinks in seconds, without even having time to send a distress signal, and leaves no debris or oil slicks on the surface, as everything is swallowed up by the bubble flow. This explains one of the most eerie features of the Bermuda disappearances, the complete absence of traces. Conspiracy theorists, naturally, tried to fit this discovery into their worldview. Some claimed the methane emissions were exhaust from an Atlantean underwater base still functioning on the ocean floor. Others decided that the gas hydrates were the remnants of an ancient civilization's energy system, and that the Bermuda Triangle was a place where a forgotten machine still operated, periodically emitting energy. Still others suggested that methane opened portals to other dimensions, because at certain concentrations, the gas could cause hallucinations in pilots and sailors, causing them to simply steer their ships and planes into oblivion, unaware of what they were doing. The scientific reality, as usual, turned out to be more prosaic, but no less frightening. Geologists confirmed that the seafloor of the Bermuda Triangle does indeed contain gas hydrates, but emphasized that mass emissions are rare events, occurring once every 1,000 years. The last major release in this area, according to their estimates, may have occurred at the end of the Ice Age, about 15,000 years ago, when ocean warming destabilized vast reserves of underwater methane. However, the very fact that a gas bomb lies dormant beneath the ocean floor, susceptible to awakening from any seismic shock, requires treating this area with far more respect than an ordinary stretch of sea. The second discovery concerns not the seafloor, but the sky, and it explains the disappearances of planes more convincingly than any portals or abductions. Meteorologists have long noticed unusual weather patterns forming in the Bermuda Triangle. The warm waters of the Gulf Stream, which flows directly through the triangle, create a powerful contrast with the colder air descending from the North American continent. This contrast generates microstorms, localized storms that appear out of nowhere, reach hurricane force in minutes, and dissipate just as quickly. In the era before satellites and modern radar, these storms were invisible. They evaded weather maps, went unnoticed by coastal stations, and struck ships without warning. But a real breakthrough came in a study published in 2016 by meteorologists from Colorado State University. Analyzing satellite images of cloud cover over the Bermuda Triangle, they discovered strange hexagonal cloud formations found nowhere else in the Atlantic. These clouds weren't just unusually shaped, they were associated with so-called air bombs, downdrafts of air that crash from high above onto the ocean surface at speeds of up to 170 kilometers per hour. Imagine an invisible fist slamming into the water from above, creating waves up to 15 meters high and hurricane-force winds over a radius of several kilometers. An airplane caught in such a downdraft can lose altitude so abruptly that the pilot simply has no time to react. A ship struck by an air bomb experiences a wave on one side and a gust of wind on the other, and can capsize in seconds. Half an hour later, the skies are clear again. The ocean is calm, and to the rescuers arriving at the scene, it seems as if the disaster occurred in perfect weather. It was precisely this discrepancy between the calm conditions at the moment of rescuers' arrival and the complete destruction of the vessel or aircraft that created the impression of a mysterious, supernatural disappearance. The victims seemed to vanish into thin air. Nothing supernatural actually happened. It's just that the weather in this area has a knack for killing quickly, brutally, and leaving no witnesses. The third discovery has unnerved not conspiracy theorists, but physicists. It concerns the Earth's magnetic field and its strange behavior in the triangle's vicinity. For centuries, sailors have complained that compasses in the Bermuda Triangle behave strangely. The needle would twitch, point in the wrong direction, or spin for no apparent reason. These complaints were always dismissed as superstition and nautical anecdotes until geophysicists began systematically measuring them. They discovered that the Bermuda Triangle is one of the few areas on the planet where magnetic north and true north coincide, meaning the magnetic declination is zero. This isn't dangerous in itself, but it creates a navigational challenge. Sailors and pilots accustomed to adjusting for magnetic declination had to cancel it in this region. If they didn't, their course would be thrown off, and they could stray tens of kilometers without even realizing it. But this was just the tip of the iceberg. In 2020, a team of researchers from the University of Leeds in the UK published a paper showing that the Earth's magnetic field in the Bermuda Triangle region exhibits a local anomaly associated with the so-called South Atlantic Magnetic Anomaly. This is a zone of weakened magnetic field that slowly drifts westward, periodically sweeping across the triangle. Within this zone, the Earth's magnetic field is weaker than usual, which has two important consequences. First, compasses can indeed produce inaccurate readings. Second, the weakened magnetic field provides less protection from cosmic radiation, and satellites flying over this zone are more likely to experience electronic failures. Conspiracy theorists, of course, interpreted this as proof that the Bermuda Triangle is a planetary energy hub, a place where ley lines converge and where a powerful, invisible force can disable electronics and disorient people. Some recalled Nikola Tesla's theory of energy transmission over distance and suggested that the triangle is a natural analog of the Tesla Tower, a giant electromagnetic resonator tuned to the Earth's frequency. Geophysicists, however, explain that the anomaly is not mystical, but geological. Beneath the South Atlantic, at the core mantle boundary, there is a region where convective currents of molten iron flow differently than in other parts of the core. This weakens the magnetic field in a certain sector, and the effect slowly migrates across the planet's surface. In a few centuries, the anomaly may shift, and compasses in the Bermuda Triangle will function flawlessly again. But while it's there, navigation systems, especially older analog compasses, can fail at the most inopportune moments. The fourth discovery was made not by geologists or meteorologists, but by oceanographers, and it concerns water itself. The Gulf Stream, one of the most powerful ocean currents on the planet, runs right through the Bermuda Triangle, transporting warm water from the tropics into the North Atlantic. In some places, it reaches speeds of up to 9 kilometers per hour and is up to 80 kilometers wide. It's more than just a river in the ocean. It's a wall of moving water, capable of dragging a small vessel hundreds of kilometers off course if the captain doesn't take the current into account. But in recent years, scientists have discovered something previously unnoticed in the Gulf Stream: giant underwater eddies that break away from the main current and roam the ocean like invisible whirlpools. These eddies, or mesoscale eddies, have diameters of 50 to 300 kilometers and can persist for months, slowly moving across the Atlantic. Within the vortex, water circulates, creating powerful underwater currents that are virtually invisible on the surface. A ship caught in such a vortex may suddenly find itself being pulled in a completely unexpected direction, with navigational instruments misaligned with reality. In an era when navigation relied on stars and compasses, such drifting could be fatal. But the most intriguing discovery concerns not the eddies themselves, but what they do to waves. In 2017, oceanographers from the University of Southampton in the UK conducted a computer simulation of wave processes in the Bermuda Triangle and discovered that the collision of waves from different storm systems can generate so-called rogue waves, single walls of water up to 30 meters high that arise suddenly, last for several minutes, and then disappear without a trace. These waves are not a myth. Their existence has been confirmed by satellite observations and instrument readings on oil platforms in the North Sea. A rogue wave hits a ship from above and from the sides simultaneously, breaking the hull and flooding the decks with tons of water. The vessel can sink in 2 to 3 minutes without even having time to issue a distress signal. And because the wave disappears as quickly as it appears, rescuers arriving at the scene see calm seas and no signs of a storm. The Bermuda Triangle, according to researchers, is one of the places where rogue waves form most often because several wave systems converge here. Waves from the Gulf Stream, waves from the open Atlantic, and waves reflected from the shallow banks of the Bahamas. The fifth discovery is the most recent and perhaps the most significant for the future. It was made not in water or air, but in the sedimentary strata at the bottom of the triangle. In 2019, an international team of geologists working on a deep-sea drilling program recovered cores, cylindrical columns of soil, from the ocean floor near Bermuda. These cores contained a layer-by-layer record of climate change over the past several million years, and what they found forced climate scientists to revise their models. Layers corresponding to periods of sharp warming in Earth's past revealed traces of massive methane emissions from underwater hydrates, the very same gas bombs we discussed earlier. But the scale of these emissions turned out to be significantly greater than expected. Geochemical analysis has shown that during the so-called Paleocene-Eocene thermal maximum 56 million years ago, billions of tons of methane were released from the seafloor in the area, entering the atmosphere and causing a jump in global temperatures of 5 to 8 degrees Celsius over several thousand years. Methane is a greenhouse gas 80 times more potent than carbon dioxide, and its massive release triggered a chain reaction. Warming melted even more hydrates, which released even more methane, which caused even more warming. This vicious cycle, which scientists call the methane catastrophe, nearly wiped out life in the oceans. And here's what worries modern climate scientists. The gas hydrates at the bottom of the Bermuda Triangle haven't gone anywhere. They're still trapped in sedimentary rocks, locked in by the pressure and low temperatures of the deep sea. But the world's oceans are warming. Every year the heat penetrates deeper, and sooner or later it will reach the layers where the hydrates are stored. No one knows exactly when this will happen, or whether it will happen at all in the foreseeable future. But cores from the bottom of the Bermuda Triangle show that this has happened before, and the consequences were catastrophic. Conspiracy theorists, upon learning of this research, immediately claimed that governments are hiding the truth about the impending methane catastrophe, and that the elites are already building underground bunkers to survive the coming apocalypse. Others have linked the methane emissions to the prophecies of Edgar Cayce, who supposedly predicted that Atlantis would rise from the ocean floor precisely in the Bermuda region, and that the gas release is the first sign of the awakening of a dormant civilization. Still others have suggested that the hydrates are not natural gas, but frozen waste from alien production, abandoned on the seafloor millions of years ago. Geologists, of course, don't share these fantasies, but they acknowledge that the hydrate situation is a ticking time bomb, and that the Bermuda Triangle is literally sitting on a powder keg, not a mystical one, but a very real one, composed of frozen methane biding its time. There's another detail that unites all 5 discoveries and gives them new meaning. The Bermuda Triangle isn't a cursed place, it's a place where several natural forces converge, none of which is particularly unusual individually. But together they create a unique combination of threats. Gas hydrates exist in other parts of the ocean, but not everywhere are they adjacent to the planet's most powerful current. Microstorms occur in the tropics too, but not everywhere are they amplified by the contrast between warm water and cold air. Magnetic anomalies exist worldwide, but not everywhere do they coincide with a busy maritime and air traffic intersection, where hundreds of ships pass and dozens of planes fly daily. The Bermuda Triangle is a perfect storm of factors, a juxtaposition of geological, meteorological, and oceanographic features that creates conditions where ordinary occurrences seem inexplicable. People have been confronted with the consequences of these factors for centuries, but they have been unable to see or measure them. The compass goes crazy. A wave appears out of nowhere. A ship sinks in a calm sea. And the human mind, lacking a rational explanation, creates myths about sea monsters, curses, and aliens. But here's what's truly astonishing. Even after all these discoveries, the Bermuda Triangle continues to hold its own. In 2022, while mapping the seafloor near the Bahama Banks, researchers discovered a vast system of underwater caves and blue holes, vertical karst pits extending hundreds of meters into the limestone platform. These blue holes turned out to be true time capsules. In their depths, where currents don't penetrate and where water hasn't stirred for millennia, layers of sediment have been preserved that record hurricanes, tsunamis, and climate catastrophes over the past 10,000 years. Paleoclimatologists have only just begun to decipher this record, but it's already clear that the Bermuda Triangle is not only a danger zone, but also a priceless archive of the Atlantic Ocean's history. Each layer of sediment at the bottom of a blue hole is a page in a book the ocean has been writing for millennia, and we've only just opened the first chapter. Today, we've traveled the path from Missing Link 19 to frozen methane on the ocean floor, from aerial bombs in the sky to magnetic anomalies in the Earth's crust. And the Bermuda Triangle's main lesson turned out to be something no one expected. This place isn't more dangerous than others, but it's more complex than we thought. Nature doesn't need portals or aliens to be deadly. It just needs gas, water, wind, and a magnetic field. We spent decades searching for a mystery in the Bermuda Triangle, and instead, we found science. And this science turned out to be more fascinating than any myth, because it doesn't just explain the past, it warns of the future. Methane on the ocean floor, magnetic anomalies, rogue waves, all of this exists beyond the triangle. These are global processes that influence climate, navigation, and maritime safety around the world. The Bermuda Triangle just happens to be the place where all of these processes are especially visible, as if under a magnifying glass. And if we learn to read the signals it sends us, we can better prepare for what lies ahead. The ocean is billions of years older than us, and it has the patience to wait for us to finally begin to understand it. Tell us in the comments which discovery surprised you most, and don't forget to subscribe. Science never stands still, and the ocean continues to reveal its secrets. Until then.